Hey guys, tonight we're going to travel back to a winter no one today would envy a winter. So bone-deep cold, so endlessly gray and grim, that it could easily break your body and spirit in a matter of days. We're not just going to look at it from the warmth of our cozy modern beds. No, you're stepping directly into the shoes, rags of a medieval peasant. The snow outside your cottage is knee-deep. The wind is howling like a chorus of wolves, and the firewood's almost gone. The stew is watery, the roof leaks, your toes are numb, and your stomach growls louder than the winter storm. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is. Drop your location and local hour in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sun hasn't risen yet, and already you're awake. Not because of a rooster, or because you've had a restful night, and you're ready to greet the day. No. You're awake because your feet are freezing. The threadbare blanket barely covers your shoulders, let alone your legs. A draft seeps through the cracks in the wattle and daub walls, and every breath you take puffs out a tiny white cloud in the cold morning air. You can feel frost gathering on the inside of your nostrils. You huddle closer to the body next to you, maybe a sibling, maybe two, but their warmth is barely enough. Outside, the world is silent in that heavy way only winter can deliver. There's no bird song, no rustling leaves, no cartwheels clattering over cobblestones. Just a distant dog barking, then nothing. You're not even sure if it's still night or the day has begun. Winter in the medieval countryside doesn't offer clear boundaries. The sky is always a sullen gray, the snow always fresh or trampled, never gone. Light barely filters through the oiled parchment window. You don't want to get up. The floor-packed dirt, slightly damp, is even colder than the air. But you know what's expected. There's no time for comfort here. You don't belong to yourself. You belong to the seasons, to the land, to the rhythm of survival. So after a few more moments of squeezing your eyes shut, pretending the straw mattress beneath you is just a little thicker, you sit up, curl your arms around your knees, and shiver. There's no fireplace in your sleeping quarters. That luxury belongs to the main room, and even there the fire burned down to embers sometime in the night. No one dared waste precious wood keeping it going while everyone slept. You don't own much wood. It was gathered weeks ago from the edge of the Lord's forest, if you're lucky, or traded for, with one of the village woodcutters. Most of what you burn is peat-dried dung or whatever twigs and branches you can scavenge from the frost-hardened ground. You move slowly, deliberately. Not because you're lazy, but because every motion costs energy you can't spare. Your breath fogs up as you shuffle into the main room where your mother or older sister is already stirring something over the pot. It's not breakfast, not in the modern sense. It's more like yesterday's thin barley gruel reheated. No sugar, no milk, no flavor. But it's warm, and in this season, warmth is nourishment. No one really talks during this time. The unspoken law of winter mornings: conserve energy, conserve words. There's a quiet resignation on everyone's face. Your father is already outside breaking ice from the trough, checking the animals. You can hear the distant creak of a barn door refusing to move under frozen hinges. You clutch your bowl of gruel with both hands, not to eat, but to warm your fingers. You've wrapped your feet in cloth tied with twine your shoes. The real ones, if you had any, wore through months ago. Leather is expensive, and shoemakers don't work for free. No peasants in your village go barefoot in the summer because they want to. It's just reality. In winter, it's worse. You know the stories: children who lost toes to frostbite. Old women whose fingers turned black by February. People who simply never woke up because the cold got them in their sleep. When the bowl is empty, you lick the rim. Every bit matters. Your stomach still rumbles, but there's nothing more. Maybe tomorrow your father will snare a rabbit or find a turnip buried in the earth. Maybe not. There's work to be done. Always. Even in the dead of winter. The idea that people rested in these months is a fantasy. Your life depends on storing enough to last until spring, and winter doesn't pause just because you're tired. Today, it's helping repair the roof a recent storm blew off part of the thatch. Or maybe you'll help with spinning wool or combing flax if you're one of the fortunate peasants who has livestock. If not, you might head to the woods to look for firewood or kindling, watching always for the reeve, the steward of the manor, who will fine you, or worse if you're caught poaching even dead branches from the Lord's trees. Your hands ache before you even step outside. The raw air hits your face like a slap. You brace yourself and press forward. Every footstep crunches in the snow. The paths are little more than trampled tracks between cottages. There's ice on the edges. You try not to slip. And there, beneath the gray sky, you realize something quietly horrifying. This is just the beginning of the season. The stores are already dwindling, the root cellar looks emptier every day, and the first true snow only came last week. You still have months, many months of this ahead. And no one's coming to save you. There is no state aid, no relief wagon. If you fall ill, you'll either recover on your own or die in your bed, wrapped in every blanket your family can find. If the fire dies and the roof leaks and the food runs out, you'll simply vanish into the cold like so many others have. But you don't let yourself dwell. You're too busy just staying alive. By noon, you've barely felt your fingers. But you don't complain. You never complain. Because here in the medieval countryside, complaining doesn't change anything. It only wastes energy. And energy is the one currency more precious than gold in the deep winter chill. And you're only 12 years old. The sun crawls weakly across the sky, offering no heat, just a dull, watery light that barely touches the earth before slipping away again. You're outside now, working beside your older brother, your breath hanging thick in the air, like a spirit that refuses to leave. The two of you have been stacking sodden thatch onto the roof, hoping it will keep some of the snow and wind out. It won't. You know that already. But it's better than leaving things open to the mercy of winter. Your fingers barely function. You can't feel the tips anymore. Just a dull ache where your hands used to be. You keep them moving because if you stop, they'll stiffen up, and then you won't be able to do anything. You've heard tales of men whose fingers turned black and fell off one by one. But that's never said outright. It's always in whispers, like the cold itself might hear if you speak too loud. When the job's done, if you can call it that, you stumble back inside, muscles tight, shoulders hunched. The hearth fire is flickering again, fed with more dried cow dung and a few pitiful chunks of wood. It smells acrid and sour, but it's warm, or at least warmer than outside. You huddle close, letting your hands hover near the flames, afraid to get too close in case the heat cracks the skin that's already chapped and raw. The main room is dim, the kind of gloom that seems to settle not just into the corners of the cottage, but into your bones. Your sister is spinning wool near the fire, her fingers swift and sure despite the cold. She doesn't speak. No one does, really. Conversation is a luxury you can't afford. There's too much to do and too little energy to do it with. You glance at your mother. Her face is drawn, cheeks, hollow eyes darting toward the pot every few minutes. You know she's counting meals, wondering if what's left will stretch through the next snowfall. She hasn't eaten her share in days, pretending she already ate, passing her bowl to you or your siblings. No one calls her out on it. That's just what mothers do here. They feed the children first. And sometimes, it's the last kind thing anyone ever does. There's a knock at the door, or more of a thud, really. Everyone freezes. Your father gets up slow and stiff and unlatches it. A neighbor stands there, bundled in layers that barely hold together. His beard is frosted. His lips are cracked. He doesn't come in. Just stands there in the doorway, asks if you've got any salt or a bit of lard to spare. He looks desperate, but your father shakes his head. "We're tight," he mutters, voice like gravel. "Maybe next week." The man nods once and disappears into the wind. You feel a pang in your chest. Not guilt, just a kind of recognition. You might be the one at the door tomorrow. You return to your spot near the hearth. The heat hasn't made it to your toes yet, but your hands are tingling again. That's something. You sip at some warm water steeped with a few old herbs. It's supposed to help keep sickness away, but you know it's more hope than medicine. If someone in your cottage gets ill, it will be a disaster, the kind that spreads fast and takes whoever it wants. And illness is always hovering like smoke in the rafters. You've already heard of 2 deaths in the village this week. One was a baby who just didn't wake up. The other an old man who froze to death while walking home from the woods. His body wasn't found until morning, his face half buried in the snow. The weight of it presses on you, but you're used to it. You've never lived through a winter that wasn't steeped in hunger, frostbite, and death. You've stopped dreaming of warmth. Instead, you dream of spring, not because it's beautiful, but because it's survivable. Your sister starts humming quietly. It's not a song you know, just a tune barely there, like a lullaby remembered from another life. You close your eyes for a moment and let it wash over you. It's the only music you'll hear for weeks. There are no bards, no instruments, no joy. Just this, the sound of spinning wool and a girl's fragile voice threading through the silence. When darkness falls, it does so quickly. No long sunsets here. One moment there's gray, the next there's black. Your father bars the door. The wind picks up. Snow begins to fall again, fat and lazy flakes that cling to the window ledge like they're looking for a way in. Dinner is a handful of roasted chestnuts, a stale hunk of bread, and some weak cabbage broth. You chew slowly, pretending the bread isn't hard enough to chip a tooth. You watch your parents again. Still quiet, still calculating, still sacrificing. They won't make it obvious, but they'll eat less again tonight. And maybe you will too. You don't really feel full anymore, just less hungry than you were. Before bed, your mother rubs your feet with animal fat to keep the skin from cracking. It smells awful. You hate the sensation. But it helps, and she's gentle, and for just a few seconds, it feels like care. You sleep in your clothes, everyone does. There's no point changing. The more layers you have between you and the air, the better. You curl beside your brother again, like a mirror of the morning. You feel his chest rise and fall against your back. You hope he'll be warm enough. He's younger than you. Still soft in some ways. He still cries when things get really bad, but never where anyone can hear him. Tonight the wind doesn't just moan, it screams. You hear it clawing at the thatch, threatening to rip it all down. The walls creak. The fire pops once, then goes quiet. You pull the blanket higher, knowing it won't help. The cold creeps in like a living thing, slow, deliberate, unkind. You listen to your breath, your brother's, your mother's soft cough from the other side of the room. And then, silence. The kind that presses on your chest like snow after a collapse. You wonder just for a second if you'll wake up in the morning, if anyone will. But you close your eyes anyway. Not out of peace, out of exhaustion and hope. A tiny flickering thing like the last ember in the hearth. Morning arrives not with sunshine, but with a gray haze leaking through the cracks of your shuttered window. You open your eyes to the same bitter chill, the same slow ache in your joints, the same stale, smoky scent clinging to the walls. Your limbs are stiff. You must have slept in the same position all night, curled tightly around yourself for warmth. Your back protests as you move. Your breath fogs the air again. No surprise. It never stopped being cold. You listen before moving your ears, straining for the subtle rhythms of your home. A cough, a stirring pot, the familiar rustle of someone tugging on layers of clothing. Life, at least for now, continues. You shift quietly out from under the blanket, trying not to wake your brother. He's still breathing steadily, his nose bright red, his face partially covered by the same corner of cloth you both fought for during the night. You tiptoe across the packed dirt floor, your toes already smarting from the cold. There's a tiny patch of melted water near the door, where snow must have blown in just enough to soak into your foot wrappings. Lovely. The day hasn't even started, and your skin is wet and freezing. In the hearth, only a faint red glow remains. Your mother's already kneeling beside it, blowing gently into the coals, coaxing them back to life with a practiced patience. She adds a bit of kindling twigs, straw, maybe some dried moss, whatever will catch quickly. No time or fuel to waste. You crouch beside her, hoping for a lick of heat. Your father is outside again. You hear the barn door groan open, its hinges straining. There's a soft lowing from the cow if your family is lucky enough to own one, or maybe the braying of a mule if you're among the slightly less fortunate. Either way, someone has to tend to the animals first thing, even in snow. Especially in snow. You think about that cow. If it stops giving milk, you're in trouble. If it dies from exposure, you're in worse trouble. And if it somehow wanders into illness, a chill, a bad stomach, you might be looking at your last source of nourishment disappearing into the snowdrifts. The gruel this morning tastes even thinner. You don't ask what's in it. It's better not to know. Could be barley, could be boiled nettles, could be the very last of the turnips. You eat because you must. The warmth helps. The taste is irrelevant. No one speaks while they eat. No one has the energy. There are chores to be done, and winter doesn't excuse anyone. The spinning wheel waits in one corner, and beside it, the dull clatter of a hand loom. If there's wool to card, it must be carded. If linen needs weaving, it must be done. These are not idle hands, they are survival's tools. Your mother's fingers are cracked and bleeding, but still she spins. The yarn might be sold come spring, or traded for eggs if the hens begin to lay again. You're given a task today. Firewood. What little was stored is nearly gone. You'll have to walk to the copse near the stream and hope the branches aren't buried too deep beneath snow or ice. You pull on every piece of clothing you own, 3 layers of rough wool, a ragged hood, mittens patched too many times, and wrap your feet again in cloth that already smells of mold. You step out into the world like a knight preparing for battle, but there's no glory here. Just the relentless cold and the sense that every gust of wind wants something from you. Your breath catches. The snow is deeper than yesterday. It clings to your legs, soaks into the cloth, numbs your toes. Your body moves out of habit, not strength. The wind cuts sideways, biting your cheeks. There's no path, just vague indentations from those who came before. You find the woods half-frozen branches drooping under the weight of snow, brittle and lifeless. You hack at the smaller limbs with a dull axe, the handle splintered your hands raw beneath your mittens. Every strike echoes into the silence, and you stop often, not for rest, but to make sure no one's watching. The edge of this forest is owned by the local lord. Technically, taking fallen wood isn't allowed, but if you don't take it, you freeze. If you're caught, you might be fined or worse, dragged to the manor and whipped in front of the reeve. Still, you fill your sack. Slowly, carefully. Enough to keep the fire going one more night. You pass two boys from the village on your way back. They look no better than you do, skin-chapped noses, running their shoulders hunched as they drag behind them a makeshift sled with a bundle of dried reeds. One nods at you. You nod back. Words would freeze before they leave your lips. By the time you return, your arms are shaking. The wood weighs heavier than it should. You smell of wet earth, sweat, and smoke, but you've done your part. Your father nods when he sees the bundle, says nothing. He's not unkind, just tired in a way that sleep never fixes. Inside the cottage smells of stew again this time, made with lentils, maybe a bit of dried meat if you're lucky. You think you see a chunk of carrot, though it might be a scrap of orange root. You eat quickly, warming your hands around the bowl. Then you help mend a hole in the roof's inner thatching. Water from melting snow drips occasionally into the corner of the room, staining the walls, darkening the straw. You hear your mother mumbling softly to herself. A prayer, maybe, or just a list of things running low flour salt candles. The supplies you'll ration until the last minute. If the salt runs out, preserving anything becomes impossible. If the candles go, so does the light after dusk. Then you're left with firelight only, and firewood is already scarce. Night approaches again, quicker now. The day doesn't stretch long. You feel it in your bones, that creeping return of darkness. Another night huddled under the same thin blankets, the same fire burning too low. Another night listening to the wind, the walls your own shallow breathing. You're not sick, not yet. But you've noticed the cold settling deeper in your chest. A dry cough, a tickle in your throat. You ignore it. You have to. Because if you admit it's there, you invite fear. And fear has no place here. It only makes the cold worse. You try to sleep, your body folded tightly under rough fabric, your toes pressed against your brother's shins. Your mother hums again, that same wordless melody. Your father sits by the fire, sharpening a dull knife slowly, slowly. The sparks flicker up brief stars in a room that has forgotten what warmth really is. And somewhere far beyond your little home, winter continues to deepen. The snow grows heavier, the animals grow quieter, and the cold watches patiently, waiting for someone to slow down just enough to stop. You wake in the dark again, unsure if it's still night or just the slow, bleak start of another day. The cottage is deathly still, no fire crackling, no footsteps, not even the distant bark of a dog. For a few seconds, your mind drifts in that fuzzy space between dreams and waking, and in that blur, you forget the cold. You imagine warmth, sun on your skin, bread fresh from the oven, the scent of hay and green fields. But it doesn't last. The cold reminds you. It wraps around your body like a wet cloth. The blanket is stiff with frost along the edges. You lift it slowly, peeling it from your skin, and instantly regret it. The air feels colder than ever. Your breath is visible again, swirling like smoke from a dying fire. You sit up, rubbing your arms, your face, anything to feel a spark of warmth. The cough you tried to ignore yesterday returns, this time deeper. It rattles in your chest like stones in a jug. Your mother hears it, turns to you from the fire pit, but says nothing. She's already worried, but she can't afford to worry out loud. Someone else in the house is still asleep or not. You glance at your brother, watch the rise and fall of his chest, slow but steady. You place a hand near his nose just to be sure. A small exhale warms your palm. You breathe out a little yourself. The fire is nearly gone. The last scraps of yesterday's wood have been reduced to powdery ash. You know without asking, it's time to go out again. No one says it, but it's there in your mother's glance, in the way your father tightens the strap on his boots, in how your sister lays another pair of cloth wraps near the door. Today, you go farther. The near woods are picked clean. Breakfast is nothing but hot water again, boiled with dried herbs and a few grains for color. It's not enough, but it has warmth, and right now that feels more important than food. You hold the cup in both hands, letting it sting your raw knuckles. Before long, you're bundled in every layer. You own the twine around your boots pulled tighter, the hood of your cloak tugged low over your brow. The wind howls when you crack the door open, and the world beyond is worse than yesterday. Snow is everywhere. It covers the world like a shroud, soft and silent, but also heavy and dangerous. You step into it with a crunch, sinking knee-deep. The chill rushes up through your legs like an electric jolt. You almost turn back, but you can't. Your family needs firewood, and you need to keep moving. Because if you stop even for a moment, the cold will catch up with you. You trudge along the path following the old cart ruts. They've mostly filled in, but you know the way by heart now. Past the well, past the stone wall that's half buried, past the line of crooked trees with the crows that never seem to leave. You try not to think about the stories, tales of people getting lost, just a few yards from home, swallowed by snowstorms, found days later, frozen stiff beneath a drift. But those stories live in your head whether you invite them or not. You make it to the outer grove where the older trees groan and sway in the wind. The bark is black with ice. The branches sag with snow. You pick carefully, snapping off what you can, feeling the strength drain from your arms with every load. You cough again, this time harder. The sound bounces off the trees and dies in the cold air. You feel dizzy just for a second and lean on your bundle to catch your breath. There's no time to waste, no time to sit. If you rest, your sweat will turn to frost. Your limbs will freeze faster. So you gather what you can, press the bundle to your chest, and begin the slow trudge home. By the time you return, you're half frozen, soaked, and so tired you want to cry. Your mother takes the bundle from your arms without a word. Your father looks at you just for a moment and nods again. Approval in silence. You've done well. The fire returns slowly. Smoke fills the room, stinging your eyes, making your cough worse. But you don't care. You're back inside. The heat creeps in gradually, loosening your joints, warming your blood. You peel off a few layers, careful not to tear the fabric, too worn, too precious to ruin. Dinner is stew again. A thin broth made with a bone that's already been boiled twice. Still, it has flavor. Salt, even. And that feels like luxury. Your sister speaks up tonight, just a few words about a neighbor who's gone missing. An old woman who lived near the chapel. Left her house 2 nights ago and never came back. No one found her yet. They probably won't. You all know what that means. But no one says it. The silence after her words says enough. Later, while spinning, your mother hums again. Her voice is quieter this time. Her hands shake more. The wheel creaks softly, rhythmically, like a lullaby from another world. One where life isn't always a struggle against snow and silence. You lie back on your bed of straw and rags, staring up at the beams overhead. They're dripping from the snow melting above. Water finds its way in no matter how many holes you plug. You know that roof won't last forever. And you think, what if spring doesn't come? What if the thaw never arrives, or comes too late or too weak? What if this winter is the one that breaks you? But then your brother shifts beside you, wrapping an arm over your chest in his sleep. His small fingers are icy, but you don't move them. It's a kind of warmth, too. A reminder that you're still here, still breathing. For now. You cough again. Then you close your eyes and let the cold lull you back into that fragile, uneasy sleep. The cold has settled into your bones. It's no longer something you can shake off. It's not just a temperature anymore. It's a presence. A quiet, cruel weight that follows you from room to room, whispers in your ear as you sleep, wakes you in the middle of the night, with fingers like knives across your skin. You've stopped counting the days. Everyone looks the same: gray skies, white ground, empty bowls, cracked lips. Today begins differently. There's a strange silence in the cottage, not the normal kind. This is heavier. Your father isn't at the door. Your sister isn't spinning. The fire isn't lit. You sit up, blinking through the haze of sleep and cold, and realize something's wrong. Your mother is still lying down. She never lies down during the day. Her face is pale lips, dry eyes closed, not in sleep, but in something closer to retreat. You hear your sister whisper something to her, pressing a cloth to her forehead. She's sweating, but she's freezing. You recognize the look. You've seen it in others. That glassy stare, that shallow breathing. She's ill. The fear doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in. Like the cold. Slowly. Relentlessly. Your father crouches near her, grinding a bit of dried herb between his fingers, maybe yarrow or thyme or some bitter root from the store. He mixes it with hot water, offers it to her lips, but she barely swallows. Your sister starts crying quietly, like she's trying to hold it in. But the tears come anyway. You sit by the wall, your legs pulled to your chest, and you don't know what to do. You've never felt so helpless. And yet this isn't even uncommon. Illness in winter is just part of life. People fall sick, and sometimes they recover, and sometimes they don't. You remember the neighbor who disappeared, the old woman who never came back. No one found her. No one will. You wonder if your mother will be next, if the cold will take her in her sleep, if you'll wake to silence again and realize you're now the one who has to make the gruel. Keep the fire going. Keep your brother warm. But there's no time to think like that. Survival doesn't pause for grief. Your father sends you out again, this time to fetch more water from the stream. It's a task you've done before, but today it feels harder. Your legs ache. Your chest burns from coughing. The bucket feels heavier than it used to. Or maybe you're just weaker. The walk is quiet. Snow crunches under your feet. Wind whispers through naked trees. The village is hushed. No children play in the streets anymore. No dogs bark. Everyone is tucked inside, hiding from the cold, from illness, from death. At the stream, you kneel and break through the thin layer of ice. Your fingers sting as you dip the bucket. You fill it quickly, not caring how much slush gets in. You just need to get back. The water isn't clean. But nothing is anymore. When you return, your mother is still lying down, eyes now open but unfocused. She mumbles something. Your sister nods and lifts her head gently, helping her drink. You don't ask what she said. You just listen to the fire crackling again. Somehow your father managed to get it going while you were gone. You eat a piece of crusty bread that tastes like dust. It scrapes your throat going down. There's nothing to wash it with but a cup of lukewarm water. You cough again, this time spitting something into your hand, a bit of phlegm, thick and reddish. You wipe it on your sleeve. Pretend it didn't happen. Because you don't have time to be sick. Later, your brother asks you if Mama is going to die. He doesn't say it like a child expecting reassurance. He says it like someone who's seen it before. He's not even 10. You lie to him. You say she's going to be fine, that she's strong, that she just needs rest. And then you go outside and scream into the wind. But it carries your voice away like it does everything else. You spend the rest of the day gathering. Wool scraps, bits of cloth, bark, anything that might help patch the leaking roof again. You work beside your father in silence. Every now and then he pauses to cough into his sleeve. You pretend not to notice the blood on his lips. The air feels heavier today. Not colder, just heavier. Like the snow isn't falling from the sky, but rising from the ground, pressing everything down. The village feels smaller. You feel smaller. By nightfall, your mother has stopped mumbling. Her breathing is shallow. Your sister doesn't sing. She just sits beside her, holding her hand, whispering prayers she barely remembers. Dinner is skipped. No one is hungry. Or if they are, no one says so. The fire flickers, casting long shadows across the room. Your brother curls into your side again. His hands feel warmer tonight. That's something. A small mercy. Your eyes stay open longer than usual, watching your mother's chest rise and fall, listening to the creak of the wind against the wood. Waiting. Hoping. You don't remember falling asleep. You just remember waking later in the night, the fire still glowing faintly, your father snoring lightly in the corner, your sister whispering something too soft to hear, and your mother silent. You don't dare ask. Not yet. Not until morning. Because maybe if you don't say it out loud, it won't be true. You pull the blanket higher, your brother shifting beside you, and close your eyes again. Even now, in the cruelest part of winter, you still chase sleep. Not because you want to dream, but because it's the only place left that isn't cold. Morning creeps in as bleak and gray as every morning before it. But this one is different. You can feel it in the silence. Not the usual kind, the cold hush of snow and wind, but a deeper, almost reverent silence. The kind that hangs over a room when something sacred or unspeakable has occurred. You open your eyes slowly, already knowing what you'll see. Your mother hasn't moved. She lies as she did last night, one hand on her chest, the other tucked beneath the thin blanket. Her lips are slightly parted, skin pale and waxy. Her eyes closed, not in sleep, but in something final. No one says anything. No one needs to. The air has already said it for you. Your sister's eyes are red but dry now. The tears have stopped. She sits beside the body, straight-backed, her hands folded in her lap, like she's waiting for something. Your father stands nearby, staring down with a strange stillness in his posture, grief mixed with practicality. Because there are things to be done even now, even with a dead wife lying beneath the roof you built together. You don't move at first. Your breath catches in your throat, a tightness wrapping around your chest. You don't want to believe it. You knew it was coming, but it still feels like the world has tilted, like the snow outside suddenly got heavier. Your brother hasn't woken up yet. You wish he wouldn't. You wish he could sleep through this day, this moment, and the ones to come. But he stirs, rubbing his eyes, and when he sees everyone sitting silently, he knows before he even asks. He doesn't cry, he just crawls toward your sister, buries his face in her lap, and stays there. You've seen death before. In the village, on the road, even among animals. But never like this. Never so close. Never part of you. It changes things. The walls of the cottage feel smaller. The fire dimmer. Even your body feels heavier, as if mourning is not just an emotion, but something that drags at your limbs like a weight. There's no priest in the village. He lives miles away and likely hasn't visited since before the snow began. Even if someone rode out for him, it would take days. And in this cold, with your mother's body already losing warmth, there's no time. So your father wraps her in linen, the one decent sheet you had left. It was meant for trade, maybe for flour or cheese come spring, but now it becomes her shroud. Your sister brushes your mother's hair, gently braiding it one last time. The only gift she can give now. A grave is needed. You and your father take up shovels, dull and half-rusted, and trudge through the snow to the edge of the woods. The ground is hard as stone frozen deep. You dig anyway, scraping away snow, then ice, then soil like iron. Each strike of the shovel reverberates up your arms and into your spine. You don't talk. You don't stop. It takes most of the day. When the hole is finally deep enough, you return to the cottage. The body is light, too light. She hadn't eaten much these past weeks. You carry her between you and your father, step by careful step, through the white stillness. Your sister and brother follow close behind. No one else from the village comes. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they're too afraid. Maybe they've got their own dead to worry about. You lay her down gently. You don't linger. The snow has already started falling again. Light flakes like dust shaken from a forgotten cloth. Your father mutters a few words, something between prayer and farewell, and then begins covering her with soil. You take over halfway through, not because he asks, but because you can see the tremble in his hands. By the time the grave is filled, your limbs are shaking from cold and effort. Your breath clouds thick around you. Your cheeks burn. But your mother is buried. She's gone. You return home in silence. No one speaks the rest of the day. That night, your sister doesn't hum. She doesn't touch her spindle. Your father doesn't sharpen his knife or mend a strap. Your brother climbs into your bed and presses close, and for the first time you wrap your arm around him, not just for warmth, but to hold him in place so he doesn't float away into the grief. You can't eat. The bowl sits in your lap, steaming slightly, filled with what remains of yesterday's broth. You stare into it and think of your mother's hands. Always stirring, always serving, always making something from nothing. Those hands will never move again. The fire burns low. There's not much fuel left, but no one dares go out tonight. It's enough to keep the frost from creeping across the floor. As you lie awake, you hear the wind again howling now, angry like it wants to tear through the walls and snatch everything from you. And part of you is afraid it will. That the cold has finally taken too much. That this winter will never end. That the darkness will keep swallowing and swallowing until nothing's left but silence. You close your eyes. You try to remember something warm, your mother's voice, her laugh, the way she touched your shoulder when you were scared. But the memory is already faint, blurred by hunger, exhaustion, grief. The only warmth now is your brother beside you, and the fire, small flickering, still fighting the dark, still alive. For now, you don't dream anymore. Not the way you used to, those flickering visions of warm fields, harvest festivals, or laughter around a summer fire. Now even in sleep, your mind is bleak and gray. The dreams come like winter itself, cold, slow, hollow. Sometimes you hear her voice in them. Your mother's voice humming from a corner, stirring something in a pot that no longer exists. But when you wake, the melody fades. The silence takes over again. It's been 3 days since the burial. The days blend together now. There's no real difference between morning and afternoon, no reason to mark time except for the sound of your stomach growling or the snow growing deeper. The firewood pile is almost gone again. The small stock you brought in with your father has already turned to smoke. You've been burning anything that might catch old straw, broken furniture, the wooden slats from the storage chest. This morning your father doesn't rise first. He stays wrapped in his coat on the far side of the hearth, eyes half open but empty. You wonder if he slept at all. His skin is drawn tighter than before, his beard more streaked with white than you remember. There's a weariness about him that goes beyond grief. It's the weariness of someone calculating how much longer he can keep going before there's simply nothing left to do and nothing left to do it with. You rise instead. Tend to the hearth. It's your job now, even if no one officially gave it to you. Your sister is still staring at the wall. Your brother clings to her like a shadow. She hasn't spun in 2 days. The yarn sits unfinished by the wheel collecting dust. Not that it matters. No one's buying wool in weather like this. There's no market to go to, no traders passing through. The village is a ghost, each home its own flickering candle trying not to be snuffed out. Outside, the snow has hardened into crust. It crunches beneath your feet, sharp and brittle. The air is dry but sharp as blades, and your skin cracks just from being exposed. Your lips bleed. You stopped noticing. You're heading to the chapel. Not because you're seeking comfort, at least not the kind you once believed in. But sometimes the chapel's cellar holds forgotten scraps. A turnip stored in the fall, a bit of grain left behind by a careless steward, or maybe just a moment of quiet away from the eyes that keep asking if you're all right. The chapel is dark and colder than your cottage. You step through the narrow door, and it groans like it resents your presence. Inside, the old stone walls radiate chill. There's no fire here, no priest, just shadows, cold benches, a cracked altar, and the smell of mildew and dust. You kneel anyway, not in prayer exactly, more like waiting, listening for something, anything. What are you hoping for? A sign. A voice, the sudden return of warmth. Nothing comes, just the echo of your own breath. Your fingers trace the edge of the altar. Once long ago, someone carved a cross into it. It's nearly worn smooth. You whisper a few words, not really sure what you're saying. Maybe just your mother's name. Then a noise, a soft scuffle. You spin around, heart pounding. But it's just old Tom, the shepherd, who lives on the far side of the village. He's as bundled as you are, layers wrapped around him, until he's more blanket than man. He nods. You nod back. The silence between you is familiar. He walks toward the storage alcove at the back, opens the wooden bin where food was once kept for the poor. It's empty, of course. He reaches in anyway, and comes out with a withered onion. A gift from the gods in this world. He offers you half. You hesitate, then take it. Frost'll get worse, he mutters almost to himself. Rivers frozen thick now. Rats are eating each other in the grain house. Crows too quiet. You nod again, unsure what to say. Then he leaves. You hold the half onion in your palm like it's gold. You don't eat it. Not yet. It'll go in the pot tonight. For flavor. You can already taste it biting sharp, something that reminds you you're alive. When you return home, the fire's out. Your heart sinks. It's not just out, it's cold. No embers, no coals, just ashes. You drop to your knees, scraping at the soot, searching for the smallest glow. There's none. Your sister looks up, her face hollow. I didn't know it was dying, she says, almost apologetic. But you don't blame her. You just act. You pile twigs into the hearth, blow into them, strike the old flint. Once, twice, a dozen times. Your fingers are numb, but you keep striking. Sparks dance, then die. You whisper to them like they're children, live, please live. Finally, a flame catches, a tiny thread of gold in a world of gray. The room warms slowly. The wind outside howls. You tuck the onion into the stew, thin as ever, but fragrant now. Your brother lights up when he smells it. For a moment you pretend you're feasting. You talk about spring as though it's coming soon. You imagine the sun returning, the frost melting, the fields ready for sowing. The stew simmers, the flame dances. And in that brief, flickering moment, you almost believe it. You don't know what day it is anymore. Time in winter loses its shape. It's no longer a sequence of dates and events. It's a rhythm of cold mornings and colder nights of surviving rather than living. One more day means one more bowl of gruel, one more search for firewood, one more silent night huddled against your brother, listening for the wind to change. But today, something changes. You wake to a strange sound dripping. Not the occasional leak through the roof, but a steady patter. You sit up quickly, your blanket sliding off your shoulders in a crackling fold of stiffness. The air still stings, but something is different. The snow is melting. It's not dramatic. No sudden rush, no rivers where there were once roads. But in patches along the ground outside, the white begins to thin. Water pools around the edges of the cottage. You see the dark soil for the first time in weeks. The sky above is still a dull slate, but there's a texture to the air, now softer, wetter, slightly warmer. Almost spring-like. Inside the cottage, the mood shifts. No one says it, but everyone feels it. Your sister stirs the pot with a little more energy. Your father, still wrapped in grief and weariness, pulls his coat tighter and steps outside without needing to be asked. Even your brother seems brighter, his eyes tracking the droplets as they trickle down the window's cracked pane. You step outside cautiously. The ground squelches underfoot. The snow no longer crunches, it slumps. You lift your face to the air, and for the first time in what feels like years, a breeze touches your cheek without biting it. It doesn't mean the danger has passed. You know better than that. The worst hunger often comes now when the stores are empty, but the earth hasn't yet offered anything in return. The early thaw tricks people. They think spring is here, but it's still weeks away. The ground's still too frozen to till. Nothing's growing. The cold isn't gone. It's just pretending. Still, that smell in the air, the scent of earth-thaw damp wood, it reminds you that there is a future. You head to the village green, hoping maybe someone's lit a communal fire. Maybe there's news. You pass others along the way more than usual. Pale faces peek from doorways. Children dart across the paths. A dog barks. Life, tentative and thin, begins to stir again. At the green, a few men are gathered. The reeve is there, the steward of the local manor. He's younger than most, and always wears that same fur-lined cloak that marks him as someone who doesn't fear frost the way you do. He announces that supplies will be distributed soon, a small barrel of flour, some salted fish, rations from the Lord's cellar. Not out of kindness, just necessity. If too many villagers die, there won't be anyone left to work the fields come spring. You're handed a small sack barely enough to stretch a week, but you hold it like treasure. Your sister will weep when she sees it. Not for the fish or the flour, but because it means you won't go hungry tonight. Not completely. As you head home, you see something else. A bird. A robin, perhaps. Small, round feathers puffed up against the lingering chill. It hops along a fence post and then flits into a bush. Just that simple movement, the beating of wings, the flash of red makes your chest ache with something like hope. Back at the cottage, your sister does cry when she sees the sack. Your father simply nods and begins preparing the stew for the evening. You sit by the fire with your brother, showing him how to peel bark from a dry twig to use for kindling. He listens intently, small fingers mimicking yours. The fish goes into the pot that night. It's dry, salty, tough, but real. You can taste it. You feel it. A fullness in your belly you haven't known in weeks. The warmth spreads from your core out to your fingertips. After the meal, your sister begins to hum again. It's different this time. Not mournful, not mechanical, just soft, human. A reminder that somewhere beneath all the hardship, you're still here, still a family. You lie down later with that same faint scent of earth drifting through the cracks in the cottage wall. The wind has gentled. The snow continues to melt. You hear the drip, drip, drip outside, and for once it doesn't sound like something breaking. It sounds like something beginning. But survival isn't guaranteed. You know the next few weeks will still be harsh, that the body can fail just when the mind starts to hope again, that hunger doesn't let go simply because the days are longer, that frost has a long memory. Still, for the first time in what feels like a season, you let yourself whisper the word spring, not loudly, not confidently, just quietly, as though saying it aloud might scare it away. You close your eyes, your brother curled beside you, your sister's voice still drifting softly through the room, your father breathing heavy and slow near the hearth. And you dare to believe just a little that maybe, just maybe, you'll live to see the green. The snow doesn't disappear overnight. It lingers stubborn and dirty in the shaded corners of the village, clinging to ditches and fence posts like a ghost that refuses to leave. But it's retreating slowly, surely. Each day brings more earth, more mud, more puddles. And even though the wind still bites on certain mornings, it's softer now. Less of a predator, more of a whisper. You wake to the sound of dripping again. This time it comes from inside the steady leak near the back wall, where the roof never quite sealed properly. A little rivulet trickles down the wall and into a bowl you've placed there weeks ago. It's full now. Another bowl joins it. You manage a bitter laugh. For so long you feared the snow wouldn't stop. Now the thaw is here and it's threatening to rot the floor from underneath you. Your father's already up. He doesn't speak much these days, but he moves with a purpose again. He's patching things, filling holes in the walls, binding loose wood, checking the fence for damage. These small rituals are a kind of hope, a preparation, as if he's daring the seasons to change. Your sister has returned to her spinning wheel. The familiar creak of it turning is like music now. She still hums, but not every day. Only when she thinks no one is listening. And you today, you're going to the fields, not to plant yet, not even to dig, just to walk them, to see if the ground has begun to soften, if the earth remembers you. If the roots below have survived, you step out into a world that smells different, not of smoke or ash or mildew, but of damp moss, of thawing wood, of life struggling to return. The mud squelches beneath your feet. Your boots, patched now with rope and linen, are soaked instantly. But you don't care. It's the first time in weeks the ground has welcomed you rather than pushed you away. The fields stretch before you in low, uneven waves. The furrows carved before winter still show hardened like scars across the land. You kneel and press your hand into the soil. Cold, yes, but not frozen, not dead. You smile. Not wide, not openly, but enough. Enough to remind yourself you're still capable of it. There are others out here too. Faces you haven't seen in a while. Fellow villagers walking their fields, checking fences, counting chickens that somehow survived the worst of the freeze. No one talks much. Just a few nods, a shared glance here and there. You're all still carrying the same winter in your bones. You pass the chapel on the way back. The door is open. A strange sight. Inside, the priest has returned at last. He's lighting a candle, his fingers trembling slightly, from age or cold or both. He looks up when you enter and offers a weary smile. You nod. He speaks softly. I heard about your mother. You don't answer. You don't need to. He steps closer, placing a hand briefly on your shoulder. The earth receives her. So does heaven. You want to believe that. Not for yourself, maybe, but for your sister. For your brother. For the warmth it might bring them, even if only for a moment. He gives you a bit of something, a small wafer of bread, not quite blessed, but more symbolic than nourishing. You tuck it into your coat pocket like a relic. On the way home, you notice the well is nearly full again. The snowmelt is feeding it. The rope still works. The bucket still holds. When you return to the cottage, your brother is outside poking at a patch of moss with a stick as if it's a treasure. He shows you a beetle he's found, glossy, black, clumsy in the cold. He made it, your brother whispers. So did we, you say, and it feels true. That night the fire burns brighter than it has in weeks. Your father traded one of the dried fish for a bundle of kindling, and the room glows gold. You mix the last of the flour with some broth, making something like a biscuit. It's rough, flat, barely held together, but it's warm, and it fills your belly with more than food. It fills it with the idea of food. The promise that there will be more. Your sister mends one of your shirts. Your brother lays out twigs on the floor, arranging them into odd little shapes. Some look like animals, others like stars. You watch him quietly marveling at how children find play even after grief. Before sleep, you whisper something at the hearth. You don't even know what. Maybe a prayer. Maybe a thank you. You lie down with a full stomach, a dry blanket, and a breath that no longer fogs in the air. Your brother curls into your side without trembling. The wind outside still blows, but it's softer, less cruel. The fire doesn't flicker out, and for the first time in months, neither do you. You don't trust the warmth. Not yet. Because you've lived long enough to know that winter doesn't let go all at once. It lingers. It tricks you. One bright morning is often followed by a week of biting wind and snow that drifts like punishment. So even now, even as the earth softens and the breeze carries hints of moisture instead of frost, you remain cautious. You still wrap your feet in cloth before leaving the house. You still keep the hearth lit as long as you can. And you still ration every meal like it might be your last. But it's getting harder to pretend that spring hasn't already placed its foot in the door. Outside, the birds have returned, not in flocks, but in twos and threes. Sparrows chirp from the rafters of the barn, blackbirds flit between trees, and once, just once, you see a hawk circling high above the fields. Their voices are jarring after so much silence. At first you think they're warnings, but no, they're songs. Life is remembering how to sing, and so are the people. The village is stirring again. You hear laughter in the distance, two children kicking a frozen clump of mud until it splits. Someone chops wood, the clean crack of the axe echoing like applause. Even the reeve appears less stiff, his coat swinging open at the neck, revealing a scarf that doesn't quite match perhaps a gift from someone he's decided to remember. You're working again too. The snow is almost gone, and the earth, while still hard beneath the surface, can now be scratched, turned shaped. Your father wakes you before dawn. No words. Just a look, a tilt of the head, and you follow. Out to the field. The two of you dig side by side, preparing furrows. You remove stones that have heaved to the surface during the freeze. You patch the border fence. You assess which tools have survived and which must be reforged or traded for when the market opens again. It's brutal work, but different from winter's brutality. This pain feels like investment, not loss, like motion with purpose. Your hands bleed again. Your back tightens. But for the first time in months, sweat beads on your skin, not from fever or panic, but from sheer effort. The sun, pale though it is, warms your face as you lift your chin toward it. You blink, and it's too bright. You'd nearly forgotten how that felt. At midday, your sister arrives with a scrap of cloth wrapped around a small loaf. Not real bread, not in the way you dream of it, but a mash of flour and roots and wild onion flattened and fire-cooked until it holds together. She smiles as she hands it to you. You split it 4 ways for you, your father, your sister, your brother. That's the rule now. Your mother taught you that. Always divide by 4, even if it's barely enough. After you eat, you lie on your back in the field and close your eyes. The sky above is changing. Still pale, still gray, but you feel its promise now. You hear the stream trickling again. The ice is gone. Water runs freely. You imagine fish darting between reeds that haven't grown yet. You imagine green shoots pushing from the soil. You imagine wheat. And in those few quiet minutes, you let your guard down. You let the hope in. But winter isn't done yet. That night the cold returns. A sharp wind rises just after sundown, sweeping down from the hills like a blade. You feel it in your bones. The fire struggles to keep up. Your brother curls into you again, teeth chattering. Your sister sits by the hearth, feeding it stick after stick. The snow begins again, light but steady. You wake in the middle of the night to white outside the door. A thin layer, but enough to remind you winter is never gone until it dies screaming. In the morning, the world is white again. Your father's face is hard, silent. But he doesn't give up. You go to the field anyway. You brush the snow from the furrows. You restack the stones. You keep working even as your fingers ache, because now you know the rhythm. This is how it works. The cold fights its retreat, but it is retreating. It has to. At home, your sister bakes again. She uses the last of the onion. Your brother coughs in his sleep, but not the deep, racking kind that used to shake him from head to toe. This one is soft, shallow, more memory than illness. And you sit by the fire and mend a hole in your coat. You pull the thread carefully, slowly. It's the same coat you've worn since autumn. It barely fits now. But it still holds you, still protects you. And now it carries a patch your mother made, a stitch your sister added, a seam you've reinforced yourself. Like everything in your life, it's been broken, repaired, broken again, and made whole through quiet persistence. The snow melts faster this time. You see it pooling by the door again, but it doesn't upset you. You just mop it away, wring out the rag, and place the bowl back under the drip. Because now you understand. This is what survival looks like. Messy, quiet, constant. A war of small victories, each breath, each bite, each hour of warmth. You don't trust the warmth. Not yet. But you no longer fear the cold. The snow melts, and this time it stays melted. Not all at once, not in a great flood, but steadily, like the earth is slowly exhaling after months of holding its breath. You notice things. The mud no longer bites at your feet with ice. The birds are louder. The sun, though still pale and easily chased by clouds, lingers just a little longer each evening. And then one day you smell something you haven't smelled in what feels like a lifetime. Damp grass. It's faint, more memory than scent, but it's there, threading through the air like a forgotten song. You stop mid-step in the yard, boots caked in muck, and breathe deeply. You don't say anything to your sister or your brother or your father. But your eyes meet, and you know they smell it too. It's the scent of the world waking up. That day your father asks you to take the ox into the fields. The animal survived the winter by miracle and ration-fed with scraps warmed in the lean-to, prayed over nightly. Now gaunt but alive, it plods beside you, its breath misting in the chilly morning. You guide it to the edge of the plot, where the ground has finally softened enough to accept the plow. This is a turning point. You brace yourself, wrap the handles of the plow in leather to protect your frost-chafed hands, and give the command. The ox strains, the wood groans, and with a shuddering lurch, the blade cuts the earth. You feel it in your chest. The earth yields. It rolls upward, dark and wet and alive. You step forward again, guiding the blade in a straight line. The ox moves slow and steady, and you follow, planting your boots in the fresh furrow. Behind you, your father watches silently. You don't need his praise. The look in his eyes is enough. You're not just helping, and now you're taking the lead. The farm doesn't belong to the landowner. Not really. It belongs to whoever works it through the cold and lives to see it bloom again. That evening, your arms ache so badly, you can barely lift your spoon. But you eat more than usual. Your sister has made soup with wild garlic she found near the edge of the forest. The flavor is sharp, almost startling. Your brother makes a face, then he laughs. And suddenly, so do you. It's the first time you've laughed since before. And it feels strange, vulnerable, but good. Your father even smiles, though it vanishes quickly. Not out of coldness, but habit. Still, it happened. You saw it. After dinner, you go outside again just to breathe. The wind is milder and the stars are returning. You count them, first 3, then 5, then 10. Each one a pinprick of light in the vast, silent dark. You can't remember the last time the sky was clear enough to see them. You hear a rustle behind you. Your sister steps out, arms folded, rubbing her hands together. "Smells like rain," she says. You nod. "I hope so." Because rain means growth. Rain means you can plant real seeds. Rain means green, and green means food. You stay out longer than usual, watching your breath drift and fade. The warmth from the hearth still clings to your clothes, a faint comfort. You're not shivering. Not tonight. Back inside the cottage no longer feels like a tomb. It's still small, still drafty, still sagging at the edges. But now it feels like something else shelter. A place to return to, not just a place to endure. Your brother is already asleep, curled up in the corner, a half-stitched doll in his arms. One your sister is slowly sewing from scraps of wool and string. It's nothing fancy, but it keeps his hands busy. It gives him something to hold. Your sister sets more herbs to dry by the fire. Your father oils the plow blade. And you just sit for a moment, letting it all sink in. You're still alive. Not just alive, but changing. You no longer wake in fear of frostbite. You no longer count the last turnip in the cellar. You've stopped listening for the silence that means death is near. Now you listen for the stream, for birdsong, for rain. You're becoming part of the season again. And in a strange way, it humbles you. Because for all your work, your survival wasn't entirely your doing. The cold could have taken you. Hunger could have hollowed you out. Illness could have stolen your breath. But something fate, luck, God spared you. And now you owe the spring your strength. Tomorrow you'll rise before dawn again. You'll return to the fields, to the ox, to the weight of the plow. You'll keep digging, keep planting, keep feeding the future with your sweat. Because that's what life demands of you now. To keep going. To honor the dead by tending to the living. To trade silence for laughter. Smoke for steam, hunger for harvest, and maybe, just maybe, cold for warmth. There's a rhythm returning to your days. Not the frantic survival dance of deep winter when every movement was about warmth, every chore about staving off death. No, this rhythm is slower, purposeful, woven into the land, the sun, the budding shoots of green that begin to peek through the thawed soil. You rise now, not just because you must, but because the day holds something to do, something that builds instead of merely defends. You rise before dawn, not because of dread, but because the ox waits, the field waits. The furrows from yesterday must deepen. New ones must be carved. Each row you walk, each line you guide, each clump of earth that turns, these are your offerings to spring. You still ache. Your body still bears the cost of winter. Your fingers are rough, your back perpetually tight. But the ache feels different now. It no longer hollows you out, it fills you up, a reminder that you're part of something again. Today, the sowing begins. Your father shows you how, not with speeches or ceremony, but with a handful of seed and a nod. He walks the first furrow, scattering grain with a practiced flick of the wrist. You follow. His hand is steady. Yours is not yet, but you're learning. And that's enough. You cradle each seed like it's something sacred, because it is. Each one a gamble, a hope, a future you may never see, but must believe in anyway. The soil accepts your offering row after row. By noon, your tunic is damp with sweat. Your feet are caked in mud. The wind plays lightly across your face, cooling your skin. The smell of the field is sharp, earthy, alive. You wipe your brow with a sleeve glance at your sister approaching with a cloth bundle again. Lunch such as it is. A wedge of dense bread, a cup of well water, a few slivers of pickled turnip. She doesn't speak. She just sits on a stone and watches you work while nibbling her share. There's a gentleness to her now that you hadn't noticed in winter, something quiet and enduring. Grief still lives behind her eyes, but it no longer defines her. She's healing. So are you. After the meal, she takes your brother to the forest edge. He's been restless, always wandering too close to the fields or sneaking toward the stream. So she brings him to gather spring greens nettles if she can find them, maybe some dandelion shoots. They come back with muddy hands, and smiles, her basket clutched between them like treasure. You can see color returning to their faces. Later, you sit together around the hearth, still lit, but not out of fear. Tonight, it's warmth for comfort. The stew smells better, thicker. Something about the nettles or the hint of garlic left in the bottom of a jar. Your brother talks more now. He asks about the seeds, whether they'll grow tall, whether birds will eat them. You answer carefully, not with false promises, but with gentle honesty. Some will, some won't, but we'll plant more. Your father nods at that. It's the most approval you've received in days, maybe weeks. The wind outside no longer howls, it whispers. It rustles the eaves, flirts with the smoke curling from the chimney. The snow is gone entirely now, save for one last stubborn patch in the northern shadow of the barn. You watch it each day, shrinking like an old enemy finally losing strength. You take the patch of soil closest to the cottage as your own. It's not official. No one assigns it. But you begin tending it differently. You clear it of stones. You dig a little deeper. You plant carefully not just grain, but beans from a pouch your sister found in the storage chest. You water it from the rain barrel. You guard it. You whisper to it sometimes. Not words exactly, more a kind of murmur, a presence. You lean close and let your breath mingle with the earth. It's silly. You know that. But you do it anyway. At night, you sleep with the window cracked open, just a sliver, enough to let the spring air in. It smells of rain, of moss, of something green not yet seen. The chill no longer terrifies you. You pull the blanket up to your chin and listen to your brother breathe beside you. The stars are clearer now. On the clearest nights, you count them again. You make up names for them. You pretend they're seeds planted across the heavens waiting to blossom. Your sister spins thread by moonlight. Her wheel creaks in the rhythm of peace. Not perfect peace, not safety, but something steadier than fear. Your father has begun carving again. Not tools, but a small whistle. For your brother, probably. He works on it after supper, shaving slivers of wood with a knife that barely catches the firelight. It's slow work, but patient. And patience is something winter taught you all. You still cough sometimes. A reminder of those worst weeks. But it's lighter now, and you breathe through it. You always do. Tomorrow you'll return to the field. The ox will wait. The furrows will stretch longer. The rains may come, or not. But the seeds are in the ground now. The rest is faith, not in miracles, not in luck, but in time, in rhythm, in the ancient agreement between earth and hand. You've kept your side of the bargain. Now you wait. The rains come, not in great storms or sweeping floods, but in soft, rhythmic waves. They tap on the roof, seep into the thatch, slide down the muddy lanes, and soak the fields. You wake to the smell of damp earth, the cottage cloaked in mist, the windows beaded with moisture. Outside, the trees drip steadily, and everything sounds muffled, like the world is holding its breath. The rain is a blessing and a risk. It's what the seeds need, what the soil has waited for, what you've waited for. But too much of it, too soon, and everything rots. So you watch the skies constantly now, searching for signs, those subtle shifts in light and color that tell you whether the day will bring gentle watering or a long, cold soak that drowns the future before it sprouts. Your father takes you out into the field with a spade to dig channels, little trenches between the rows, to help the water flow away instead of pooling. You learn to read the slope of the land, to notice where it dips, where it runs off, where the puddles form. You've never looked at mud so closely in your life. Now it speaks to you in textures and shadows. Your fingers are never dry anymore, but you don't mind. Not really, because with the water comes growth. Tiny shoots begin to rise. First, it's just a hint of green between the furrows, barely more than moss at first. But then, within days, there's movement. The rows begin to breathe. Your eyes catch the smallest changes, a leaf unfurling a stem, thickening the way the sun glints off 100 new blades of growth. And you realize something that hits you deep in your chest. It worked. All those days of aching hands, frozen nights, buried seeds, and whispered prayers. Something listened. Something answered. You don't celebrate out loud. No one does. The village is too cautious for that. You've all seen crops fail before. You've buried dreams alongside old potatoes in cellars gone dry. But there's a look in people's eyes now, just behind the quiet. Not joy, but readiness. Like hearts that had shut their doors for winter, are beginning to open just a crack. Your sister picks the first handful of wild greens, nettle and chickweed mostly, and adds them to the pot that night. The stew tastes brighter, earthier. Your brother grimaces at the bitterness but eats it anyway, licking the bowl clean. That night you sit by the hearth again and listen to the rain drum gently on the roof. The fire hisses where the damp creeps in, but it holds strong. Your father's carving is almost finished now. A little wooden bird, simple and unpainted, but shaped with care. He gives it to your brother without fanfare, just presses it into his hand and walks outside. Your brother doesn't say anything, just holds the bird tightly and sits by the fire, letting its warmth soak into his skin. Later, he places it on the windowsill facing the field. That evening, a neighbor visits. She's older, bundled in too many layers, her voice a dry rustle. She brings a gift, a few sprouting garlic cloves and a small bundle of nettle cord. I had extra, she says, which everyone knows is never quite true. But in spring, people begin to remember generosity. You trade her a few ounces of salt. It's not a fair trade. She knows it. You know it. But she takes it and nods. After she leaves, your sister turns to you. We should gather more nettles tomorrow. You nod. If the rain stops, it won't. And it doesn't. It rains for 3 more days. But it's a warm rain, a spring rain, the kind that feeds rather than drowns. You hear the stream running faster now, swollen but not angry. The well water tastes sweeter somehow, fresher. You let it linger on your tongue before swallowing. The fields are alive, not just yours, but everyone's. And slowly the village begins to change. Voices grow louder. Paths are cleared. Children chase each other again. The smithy starts ringing, someone sharpening a plow blade, maybe. You see smoke curling from chimneys at dusk, not as desperate wisps, but as steady signals of life returning to rhythm. Your father speaks more. Not much, just a few words here and there about the weather, the tools, the ox's sore foot. But his voice is steadier, stronger. He's beginning to look forward again. One evening he points out to the field. We'll need to build a scarecrow soon. You blink. A scarecrow. It hadn't even occurred to you. Birds, pests, the things that come not to kill you directly, but to steal your survival one seed at a time. He starts gathering sticks that night. And you realize something else: you've made it through the worst. That doesn't mean it's over. The months ahead are full of work, of weather, of risk. A late frost could still ruin you. A disease could strike the grain. 1,000 things could still go wrong, but you're no longer just reacting. You're building again, defending something that has a chance. And that changes everything. The fire in the hearth flickers as you lie down that night. You're not trembling. Your brother isn't coughing. The blanket doesn't feel like a prison. It feels like shelter. Your mother's voice drifts through your memory, soft, humming, almost forgotten, but not painful now. Just present. And as the rain continues to fall and the fields begin to glow with promise, you let your eyes close. And for once, you rest. Not out of exhaustion, but peace. Spring deepens. The days stretch longer, like someone is slowly pulling the edges of light farther apart. The sun, still pale and prone to hiding, begins to hold its gaze on the land a little longer each afternoon. It reaches deeper into the fields, drying puddles, warming the stones, coiling steam from the wet rooftops. And something inside you starts to stretch with it. You move differently now. Not hunched against the cold, not braced for the next calamity. Your shoulders lift. Your steps are quicker. Your hands, though, still rough and calloused, have regained their rhythm. The frost scars on your knuckles are fading. You can grip a tool without flinching. The scarecrow is finished. It stands in the middle of the field, crude but proud, stuffed with straw and rags, arms out like it's welcoming the crows instead of scaring them. But it does its job. For now, the birds keep their distance. Your brother insists on naming it. He chooses something ridiculous, something that sounds like a made-up word from a child's dream. You all laugh, really laugh for the first time in what feels like lifetimes. You hear laughter from other cottages, too. The village is different now. Not because the grief is gone, it isn't. You still pass doors that stay closed all day, fields that remain untouched. There are empty chairs at more than one hearth. But there's movement, rebuilding. Even a little music here and there. A shepherd with a pipe. A mother humming as she carries water. You see life rising again from where winter tried to flatten it. Your own field is sprouting. The furrows are no longer lines of mud, but rows of green, trembling shoots that wave lightly in the breeze. Every day you inspect them, checking for signs of rot, of breakage, of intruders. You weed carefully. You water when it hasn't rained. You speak to them without realizing. Just quiet things grow, stay strong, you're doing well. Your sister tends the cottage garden now. It was wild last year, mostly weeds and stubborn roots, but she's reclaiming it inch by inch. Carrots, beans, a few medicinal herbs. She keeps a journal in charcoal on scraps of wood and parchment notes about what grows best where the sun hits longest, how much water each row seems to need. One morning she pulls you aside. "Look," she says, pointing to a cluster of young greens. "I think we'll have spinach by the feast day." You can't remember the last feast day you celebrated. They passed in silence all winter. But now the idea of marking time again, of honoring something beyond survival, it moves you. You nod. "We'll have to save some butter." Her smile is soft but real. Your father begins repairing the barn. The beams held through the snow barely, but the walls sagged and the roof leaked. Now he patches them one plank at a time. You help him when you can, holding the ladder, carrying timber, sawing slowly, with a blade that still bites true. He doesn't talk much, but the silence is no longer heavy. It's companionable. He offers you the saw once. You're old enough. You take it without speaking. And something unspoken passes between you, not approval, not pride, but trust. You feel it settle deep in your chest. Your brother spends his afternoons chasing bugs and frogs. He builds towers out of stones, names every plant he sees, even if he gets them wrong. He sings made-up songs under his breath, the kind of songs children sing when the world feels safe again. One evening he comes running from the wood's edge, clutching something in his hands. A nest, he says, holding it out like a trophy. Inside are 3 tiny eggs, pale with brown flecks. Your sister gasps. "Put it back now." He pouts but obeys. You follow him to the tree and help lift him high enough to return the nest to its perch. It's a sign your sister whispers later. New life. You want to believe that. And in a way you already do. The village starts talking about markets again. Not just survival rations, but trade. Cloth for cheese. Tools for grain. Someone mentions honey. Another speaks of sending a messenger to the monastery for books and candles. It feels impossibly distant from the bitter, endless gray of 2 months ago. But no one laughs it off. Even hope, it seems, is learning to return. That night, after a full day of planting, weeding, chopping, and hauling, you sit by the hearth, your muscles sore but satisfied. The fire burns high, not because it has to, but because it feels good. You let the warmth soak in the flicker of light painting your face. Your sister hums again. A new melody this time, lighter, playful. Your brother sleeps curled in a blanket nearby, the wooden bird still clutched in one hand. Your father leans back against the wall, eyes closed, a faint smile just tugging at the corners of his mouth. Outside, the rain has stopped. The stars are bright. You step out into the cool night air, breathe deeply, and look up. There's no moon tonight, but the stars are enough. Their light isn't warm, it isn't close, but it's steady. And that you realize is what matters now. Not whether the world gives you comfort, but whether it gives you a chance. And this spring, for the first time in a long time, it has. The green comes fast now. What began as a thin shimmer across the fields has grown into a lush carpet. The stalks are taller each day, stronger, whispering secrets to one another as the wind moves between them. You walk the furrows with pride now, not fear, your eyes scanning for weeds, your fingers brushing the tops of the young plants like a blessing. The season has turned. You've lived it, felt it, not just in the warmth returning to the air, but in the way your own breath no longer fogs in the morning. Your cheeks have color again. Your voice is stronger. You rise earlier because you want to, not because you must. And when you do, the light is already waiting. Your body is still lean. You haven't fully recovered the weight winter took from you. But your limbs are solid, your steps sure. You've built muscle through labor, not leisure. Your strength is not the loud kind. It's the silent resilience of one who has suffered and still wakes up to sow. The village has awakened too. Children laugh in the lanes. Dogs bark in the fields. Men sharpen tools, women hang laundry. Elders sit in the sun with their hands wrapped around mugs of thin cider. The blacksmith's fire is burning again. You hear the ring of hammers, the chatter of bartering, the sounds of daily life finally resuming. And food, real food, is beginning to return. The wild greens are plentiful. Your sister gathers them in armfuls, sorting them by flavor and use. The first garden radishes are pulled small and sharp, their red skin brilliant against the brown earth. A neighbor trades a dozen eggs for 2 loaves of your sister's bread, and when she cracks them open, the yolks are golden and thick. At supper, you taste flavor again. Not just survival, but satisfaction. You chew slowly. You smile between bites. You let yourself feel full. That night, a celebration breaks out in the green. It's not organized. No banners, no tables, no priest declaring the festival has begun. Just people gathering because they can. because it's warm enough, because there's something worth gathering for. Someone brings a drum, someone else a carved flute. A jug of mead appears, a stew pot simmers over a communal fire. People laugh and dance barefoot in the grass. Your brother runs in wild circles, shrieking with joy, the wooden bird tied to his wrist, like it might lift him into the sky. Your sister dances too, spinning in time with another girl from the far side of the village, arms-linked hair flying behind her like a banner. Her cheeks are flushed. Her eyes shine. And for the first time since your mother's death, she looks not just alive, but happy. Your father stands at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed. He doesn't smile much, but you see his shoulders relax, his stance soften. He watches the fire, listens to the music, and lets the moment pass over him like a warm breeze. And you stand in the center of the green head, tilted back, looking at the stars. You remember the endless night of winter when the stars felt cold and unreachable. Now they glow like witnesses, not distant, but familiar, like old friends who stayed silent while you struggled and now offer quiet congratulations. You survived, not just the cold or the hunger or the grief, but the silence, the stillness, the long pause between what was and what could be. And now what could be is here. The field is growing. The stores are rebuilding. The cottage is repaired. Your brother no longer clings to your side in the dark. Your sister sings while she works. Your father carves not out of sorrow, but care. You have lost. You will always carry that. But you have gained too. Strength. Understanding, a new rhythm to your days. You return home late, arms full of leftover bread and an old shawl someone handed you when the fire burned low. You lay your brother in his bed. You help your sister wash the dishes. You bank the hearth fire, stirring the embers gently until they glow steady and soft. Then you lie down on your straw mattress, the same one that once seemed like a grave and now feels like a place to rest. Your hands are stained with soil, but warm. Your back aches, but not with misery, with effort. You stare at the ceiling beams, listening to the creak of the cottage as it settles. Rain will come again, and cold, and hardship. The seasons will turn, and with them, so will your fortunes. But you're not afraid anymore. You've learned how to endure and how to begin again. You close your eyes, your breath slow and easy. The scent of wood smoke and herbs fills your nose. Outside, a frog croaks once, then twice, and sleep finds you, not with teeth, but with grace. Shh. Let the night wrap gently around you now. You've walked a long way through winter tonight, not the kind in stories with snowflakes and sleds, but the kind that seeps into your bones, tests your spirit, and asks quietly, will you keep going? And you did. Through the cold, the hunger, the dark, the silence, and the sorrow, you placed one foot after another. Even when you had nothing but a patch of sky above and frozen earth beneath you, moved forward. You lived every ache, every empty belly, every breath in the frost. And you reached the other side. Now the fields are green again. The fire is warm. The stars are steady. The wind no longer bites. It only brushes past your skin like a lullaby. The world outside the cottage door is soft with new grass, and you're safe beneath your blanket, the hard-earned peace of spring tucked around you like a promise. There's nothing left to do tonight. No fields to tend, no fires to feed, no roofs to patch. Just breathe. Just let your body sink into the mattress, your heartbeat slow, your mind drift. The worst of the season is behind you. You've survived. You're warm. You're home. So rest now, traveler of the past. Let the quiet take you. Let the dark cradle you not with fear, but with rest. Tomorrow will come. But tonight belongs to sleep.